So in the past, we were able to add fractions, and we remember that when we were adding fractions, we could do, let's say, 2/3 plus 1/3, and all we would do is keep the bottom the same, because the bottoms are both the same, so we don't need to do anything to them, and then add the top. 2 plus 1 is 3. But what if the bottoms are not the same? So what if we have something like, let's say, what if we have something like this? We have 3/10 plus 50/100. Well, let's try and do the same steps right now. Well, the last time we kept the bottom number the same, so it would be either 10 or 100. And I don't know which one to pick. Well, the thing is, you can't choose between them because both denominators are the most important numbers. So I can't say, oh, well, I like 10 better, so the denominator is going to be 10. I have to do something to make the denominators the same. Otherwise, I can't add them. So I feel like I could make the 3/10, the 3/10, into a 100. I feel like that's the easiest thing because we remember our rule for that is pretty simple. You multiply by 10, or that means you just add a 0 to the top and a 0 to the bottom. So 3/10 would become 30/100. And then I'd keep the 50/100, and all of a sudden, I can add them. So that would be 100 staying at the bottom, and 50 plus 30 is 80. And I would get 80/100. And I could have done it the opposite way. I could have said, oh, well, I'm going to cross out the zeros and make that 5/10, and I could have gotten 8/10. Either way is correct. Either way is correct. So when you see that the two denominators are different, you need to change them. You cannot leave them different and try and add them because we can't add denominators. You could not have made this 10 plus 100 to make 110 and then have tried to add 50 and 3. It's not allowed. The denominators always, always, always need to be the same when you're adding. So let's try another problem. We have, whoops, I just dropped my whole book. We have, Sheen lives 0.5 miles from the store. The store is 0.25 miles from his grandmother's house. Sheen is going to walk to the store and then to his grandmother's house. How far did he walk? Okay, so there we go. Here's what we have. We have that he lives 0.5 miles from the store and 0.25 miles from his grandmother's house. But these aren't fractions, so these are going to be kind of hard to add. So why don't we make these into fractions? Because this says that they want it in fraction form. So let's do that. We know that 0.5, well, there's only a 5 on that side, so I'm going to put the 5 at the top, and since it's a 5, it goes over 10 because there's no 0. There's no 0 on this side, so it's 5/10. Plus 0.25, well, we have a 25 next to the fraction, so I'm going to put that on top. And since it's a 25, it can't go over 10, so it must go over 100. Alright, but I can't add these because remember, 10 and 100, I don't know which to choose from, so I have to switch it up. I have to make that different. Well, I can't cross out zeros from this one because we've got a 25 on top and I can't take away numbers, but I can make this one into 100. So this would become 50/100 because I add a 0 to the top and a 0 to the bottom, plus 25/100. Boom. And we know that 50 plus 25 is 75, just like quarters, plus 100. Over 100, I mean. And if they decided to want this as a decimal, let's say they wanted to make this a decimal for some reason. Okay, well, I just have to change this from 75 over 100 to a decimal. And what would that be? We have no whole number, so it's a 0. And I put my point, and then I just bring down my 75. 0.75. Done. So it could either be this one or this one. One of these two answers, depending on if they want it as a fraction or a decimal. Let's do one more. I'm going to erase my board here. So remember, you just have to pick one side and change it to either 100 or a 10. And depending on the number that we're looking at, you will change one or the other. Sometimes you're not so sure. Here's one. Here's one that can go either way. So, this one's tricky, and here's why. We have 5 over 100. Oh, I said that this could go either way, but it can't. It can only go one way. 5 over 100 and 7 over 10. This can only go one way. Can we take zeros away from the 5 over 10? No, we cannot, because there's no 0 on the top. If we take 1 from the bottom, that's fine, but there's nothing to cross out on the top. So we move to 7 over 10. So we add the 0 to the top and the bottom because we want to keep the denominator 100. We want to keep that. So 7 over 10 becomes 70 over 100. And we do plus 5 over 100. Then we add. That one's pretty easy. Equals 75 over 100. Done. Pretty easy. So that's what you're going to do for the rest of the time. And I would like to remind you guys, when you have notice what's the same about all these. It's not 0.80, 0.10, it's 0.08, 0.01. Now, the two numbers on the back tell us that this must be out of 100 because these two numbers right here, it's not like you're saying 0.1. We would know that's out of 10. There's two numbers. So we already know that this is out of 100 because that's in the hundredths place. But what number is it out of 100? It would be 0, 1. All right, 0, 1. But do we ever say 0, 1? No. We say 1. How about this one? This would be out of 100 again. This would be 0, 6. But do we ever say 0, 6? No. So we would knock out that 0 at the top because you don't need to say 0, 6. It would just be 6. What about this top one? 0, 8. Okay, well I'm going to put a 0, 8 to remind myself. Out of 100 because there's two numbers on the end. Oh, but it's not 0, 8 because 0, 8 is not a number that exists. It's 8 over 100. When you say a 0.0 something, it means that it's a single digit. Don't forget that. I noticed that was a mistake that a lot of you made. Be careful with 0.0 something. 0.0 tells you that it must be a very small number. It must be a single digit number, so don't forget that. You guys are going to do some practice problems on your own. I think you guys are going to do really great at it because this is a pretty easy lesson. This is a pretty fun lesson. And that is it. I'll see you guys later.